Hey everybody, Sarah here. So today I'm going to make a video that was requested of me, and that is about how I personally arrange my corn snakes. How do I keep track of them? How do I keep track of which ones have eaten and which ones haven't? How do I keep track of the clutches and all of that stuff? I thought I would just kind of go over that with you guys so that you would be able to maybe better organize your snakes in the future as well. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and thank you to all the members who are on this channel. You guys are amazing. You make everything possible, so thank you so much. If anybody else would like to become a member, you can click join down below. It's right next to the subscribe button to see what all the perks are. We have two tiers right now. We have the neonates tier and the well-started tier. The neonates tier will get you your own video every single week, as well as the member badges and emojis, and then the tier above that, the well-started tier, will get you priority comment replies from me, as well as you get to vote on names for my corn snakes. So if you are interested in supporting the channel and also having a hand in what I do with my snakes and what I name them, we would love it if you became a member. Please remember, I have a website, sarahssnakeshop.com, where I sell corn snakes and corn snake accessories. If you would like to go visit my website, I will link all of these things down below. I will also link my Morph Market store down there because I do tend to update my Morph Market store pretty much before anything else. So if you want to see the latest of what I have available, either check my Facebook or check my Morph Market. So a quick thank you to Reptilinks for helping to support this channel. If you would like to get a discount on some awesome food for your snakes, it might look a little different, but it's a lot less gross in your freezer next to your TV dinners. You can use my code SarahSnake27 at checkout at Reptilinks.com. You get a discount, and I also get a little money back from that as well. So you'll be getting great food for your snakes as well as helping out my channel. Now I want to jump into the meat and potatoes of this video. The first thing that I want to talk about is the numbering of the snakes. So each snake in my collection has its own number. I often will name them as well. In fact, all of my adults have names, but aside from the names, they also have a number. In order to explain the numbers, I'm going to explain to you how I number clutches of babies. So when I label clutches of babies, I will always start with the year. So for example, this is 2023, and just the number of the clutch. Like, how many clutches have I had? Oh, I've had 105 clutches, so this is 2023-105. And you can do this either by year or in total. It might be easier if you have a high volume of snakes to do this by year. So 2023-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then maybe next year, 2024, you'll have a -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have had slightly over 100 clutches total, and so if my clutch number is clutch number 101, that is the 101st clutch that I have hatched total over the complete time that I have been breeding. If I get to a point where I have a lot more snakes, then I'll probably change this to the first option that I mentioned, which was 2023 1 2 3 4, 2024 1 2 3 4, etc., as opposed to, we ended last year, I believe, at 2022-89, and then this year we started at 2023-90. So just to kind of give you an example, that is for clutches that I hatch myself here at the shop. However, sometimes I will either purchase wholesale clutches from friends, or I will purchase adult snakes. Typically what I would do in that case is I would use the initials of the person or place that I purchased from. So for example, if I bought snakes from my friend Joe Pierce, then I would say that that is clutch 2020-JP1, and then each snake will have a number on top of that. Now, sometimes, of course, you're going to have people who have the same initials. I also have a friend named Joe Peck who I would buy snakes from. These are actual people, and I do recommend you purchase from them if you have the opportunity, by the way. So if there are multiple JP clutches, then there will be JP1 and JP2, and sometimes I might just put the last name instead of JP. I might just say Peck or Pierce. So 2021-Pierce, 2021-Peck. It kind of just depends. And then, of course, each snake within that clutch will get a number of their own. If I only bought one snake from someone, and it's maybe a 2019, I'll just say 2019-JP1 number 1, and that's what their number is going to be. If I bought an entire clutch from someone, it would be like 2019-JP1, and then I'd have number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So that's how I keep track of the snakes themselves. Once they get a name, I usually just go by their name, but each of my snakes do have a number, especially ones that I have raised since they were babies. So just kind of giving you an idea, like laying the foundation of how I label all of my snakes. The year that they hatched, the clutch name or clutch number, depending on if I purchase from someone else or if I produce them respectively, and then their own number, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I prefer to do numbers and not letters because there's always a possibility that a clutch is going to have more eggs than we have letters, so I just stay away from letters for the most part. For example, I'm not going to say 2023-101A or B or C. Because that clutch may actually have like 30 babies in it, and if that's the case, then I'm going to run out of letters. However, I'm not going to run out of numbers. So now that you know how I number my snakes, let's talk about how I label them. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to do after I put the clutch name and the baby number is I'm going to put whether it is male or female, so I just put M or F up in the corner right next to their number. So it might be clutch 101-5F. Something like that. Now onto the slightly more complicated part of this, and that is labeling the morphs. If I know what visual morph I have, as long as it's not something super complicated, if it's just snow, ghost, anery, something like that, I will just simply write snow, ghost, anery, whatever it is. Now, if it's something that's more complicated, I'm going to use a lettering system to mark down all of the morphs that are in that specific snake. Here is that lettering system. I will let you take a moment to screenshot that. AA is for homozygous amelanistic, and N is homozygous anerythristic, and then of course we get down to some other ones like scaleless, so I will say SL for that, or sun-kissed, I will say SK, because the SS is actually stripe. And of course I have MS for motley stripe, etc., etc. It's not a perfect system, but it works well enough for corn snakes, at least the way things are right now. Now, when a snake is het for a mutation or possibly het for a mutation, I want to put those in there as well. And it's very long to put, if it's het anery, to say NX. X would mean that there was no anery on the other side. So if it was het anery, just like MS was motley het stripe or motley stripe, NX would be het anery. But I don't want to have to write all of that out. So what I typically do is I put a / in to indicate the word het, and I will go ahead and just list the single letter unless it's something that requires a double letter. So if it's het amel, I will put /A. And then if it's also het anery, I will just put a comma and then an N. If it's het caramel, then I'll put a comma, then a C, etc. And then of course if it's het sun-kissed, I will just put SK on there. Now when something is possibly het for a mutation, like 66% possibly het or 50% possibly het, I'll put that in there as either 0.6 or 0.5. So that way I can just glance at a tag and say, okay, this snake was hatched in 2021, it came from clutch 80, it's a female, and then underneath that I say, oh, it's an anery, het for amel, possibly het for like 60% possibly het for motley, and 50% possibly het for caramel. I can just glance at the tag and see all of that all at once. And this is what a tag actually looks like, and of course once you understand all of my little shorthand, you'll be able to understand what this tag actually means. So now that you understand how I label my snakes, I'm going to show you how I keep track of their feeding and shedding and pooping schedules. I'm going to be honest, I don't keep track of the pooping schedules, and I only keep track of shedding schedules in the first, I want to say, 3-ish months of the snake's life. So here is a typical spreadsheet that I use when I am filling out snake information. At the top it will have the clutch number, and I usually will also put the parents' names and the hatch date as well on there. Sometimes I will add other details up at the top, like how many eggs there were in the clutch, how long it took the clutch to incubate, stuff like that. I don't do that for every single one, but just as an idea, if that's something that you guys want to keep track of, feel free to put that of course up there. It's all up to you. For my adults, I actually only have a sheet that just has the adults on it. I don't have a sheet specifically for each clutch that each adult came from. So yes, I have a pair of adults that came from clutch in 2017. I also have a trio of adults that came from 2019. I have a bunch of different adults from different years. I do not give them each their own sheet. I do not give them even the clutches their own sheet anymore, because I don't have the whole clutch anymore. I only have a pair or maybe a trio from a certain clutch. So all of my adults have their own sheet together. I usually will just use their names in this case when I mark down if they're eating. And of course, I don't usually have to keep track too much of when my adults are eating. In fact, the adults, I usually only keep track of when they do not eat. So I kind of go in the assumption that all of the adults that I try to feed on a certain day have eaten. If some of them skip a meal, then I will put that on there. That way I can keep track of anything that might be suspicious, like, okay, why has this snake not eaten 3 weeks in a row? And then it turns out that it was a female who was gravid and I didn't know it. Sometimes that happens. There's multiple columns. There's a column for the date that I would feed. There's a column for the names or numbers for all of the babies that ate that day. The column for did they eat on this day, yes or no. That way when I go through and glance at it, I can be like, oh yeah, this was a feeding here, this was a feeding here. If there are any specific notes that I have for any babies, I will put that in a notes section at the very end. That way I can go through and keep very close track of what each baby needs, what they don't need, what they have, what they don't have, how often they've eaten, etc. I don't put cards on the individual enclosures. I have never done that. Okay, that's not true. I tried that. I tried it for like a year and I hated it. I hated it so much. So I found that a spreadsheet like this works so much better. I just put a different page in the spreadsheet for each clutch, and then +1 for the adults, of course. This way I can just keep track of everything. It's all in one file. I don't have to worry about it. I can keep it on my computer. In fact, I usually keep it on Google Drive so that I can access it from anywhere that I am. So that way, if I'm, halfway across the country on vacation and I get an email from someone asking me, hey, what's the feeding schedule for this snake, I can very quickly just look at it and send them that information without having to say, I have to wait till I get home, let me dig through a physical book, or I have to get back to my laptop to show you. It's just very nice, in my opinion, to have it on Google Sheets. I will go ahead and link down below as well a template that you can use if you want to go with what I do. But you guys just have it and you can use it as you need. As far as knowing how many times a snake has eaten, I literally just go back through the sheet and count how many times that number shows up. So if I'm wondering how many times has number 3 eaten from this clutch, I just go back and count. Oh, okay, number 3's eaten 5 times. The snake is probably ready to be put up for sale. So that's all I have for that. I'm sorry if I talked your ear off, but I hope that it helped answer some questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in a new video soon.